For more on this mounting protest, we're joined from Washington by MSNBC analyst and former RNC chairman Michael Steele and Dana Milbank of The Washington Post. Good afternoon, gentlemen. And Michael, if I can start with you. The president, speaking at the inauguration of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, said the nation is in an economic crisis that has left millions out of work, poverty on the rise, and millions just struggling to get by. By using that kind of rhetoric, do you think he was trying to align himself with the Occupy protesters that we've seen around the world?
Hey, Martin, I think so. I think a little bit, at least, trying to get as close as he possibly can, not knowing exactly what the end point is or what the overall objective is. What is the overall objective of these protests? You know, if the profit report came out and said that there was no profit made, or $1 billion worth of profit, or if there was a loss, how would that feed into the narrative as you open the show with? So I think the president is making a political calculation and trying to get as close as he can without actually getting burned by the heat, if you will, should this thing get hotter as the months progress.
Dana, we know that one network has routinely referred to these protesters as unhygienic louts. But what dangers are there in the president seeking to co-opt these protests for his own purposes?
Well, I think... Go ahead, Dana.
I don't think there's a whole lot of danger for the president in trying to get as close as he can to this movement. He needs to harness that energy because there should be a lot of energy out there. Truthfully, with $2 trillion in corporate cash just sitting there with 15 million out of work, the amazing thing is there hasn't been more energy.
But Dana, isn't there a danger of alienating the so-called silent majority who are not protesting but are suffering nevertheless?
I really don't think so. I think that you see there a lot of support for the protest because even among the independent voters in the middle of this country that they're very sympathetic. They really feel that things have gotten out of whack with this system. If there's any danger, it's the danger to the demonstrators having Obama try to give them a big hug. They've been let down by Obama before. They really need to be careful about letting him try to become the face of this movement again. I think they have learned from the Tea Party in not letting the Republicans try to co-opt the Tea Party. And I think the Occupy Wall Street movement is learning as well to be independent, to push the president, to push the Democrats, not to be consumed by them.
That's really interesting, Dana. Michael, Eric Cantor says that we have elected leaders in this town who, frankly, are joining in an effort to blame others rather than focusing on the policies that have brought about the current situation. That's what he said. Right. The policies that brought about this situation were launched by President Bush, not by President Obama. Right. So what is Mr. Cantor talking about?
Well, he's talking about that, and I think Eric Cantor would be one of the first to acknowledge the very point that you just made. These policies were not just 2 years in the making or 3 years in the making. They've been 5, 6, 7, 10 years, maybe longer in the making. I think, though, that the broader point is what is leadership going to do about it now? We had a problem. There's no doubt about it. The 2008 cycle that began for this country illustrates that. They became exacerbated over the last couple of years with the levels of trillions of dollars that were being spent to so-called stimulate the economy. So now we're at a point after, 4, 5, 6 alliterations of the president's job plan or job summit or job meeting to have these protests sort of galvanize around this idea of not just putting people back to work, but fixing the economy in a way that we don't go down this road again. And so both leaderships in the House, the Senate, the White House, Democrat and Republican, have a responsibility here to step up before this goes any further.
Dana, the current cover of The New Yorker is rather timely. Fat cat bankers as protesters saying, leave well enough alone. And we heard the president say Sunday that the privileged will decry change as divisive. And I recall that Chris Christie, when he endorsed Mitt Romney, said that he thought the president was being divisive. So is that the Republican position now?
Well, I think so. I mean, they have to counteract this in some way. But, of course, the divisions have been, as Michael alluded to, building for a very long time here, created by growing inequality. And now you have this outrageous situation where you have huge bank profits at the same time where they're kicking more and more people out of their houses. And they're not making the loans that are needed to get the economy going again. So, there's plenty of division out there. The division is not being created by the people out in the street right now. That is, I would say, a belated and still rather small reaction to what is this larger outrage.
A remarkably equable and agreeable interview with both of you, Michael Steele and Dana Milbank. Thank you very much.